I feel like I'm in a vacant house front property commercial. But I'm actually at 1007 West Maryland Street. There was quite a fire here last October. The property is no different than it was then. There's actually some weeds growing up, so I guess it's a little different. Lots of bricks though. Lots of bricks. I'll pay for that. Neighbors have complained a lot about this property. We've talked to a bunch of them, and they've complained to the city, and the city in return has put a fence here that is so you can't get up here. Yeah. So, who owns this mess? Well, the answer to that question is kind of complex. There was a gentleman by the name of Scott Marshall who owns this mess. When the fire happened, Marshall is the owner of Body Panels Company. They store car parts. They've actually got a facility here in Evansville, but they're based in Memphis where Scott lives. Now, Scott sold this property right after the fire, and he sold it to a gentleman by the name of Kyle D. Hughes. So who's Kyle D. Hughes? And Kyle D. Hughes lives in Memphis too. Kyle D. Hughes is actually a collector of fine used mattresses. That's not true. Kyle Hughes bought the property for $0 on May 22nd. Obviously, you recognize the date May 22nd as the day that Kyle D. Hughes bailed out of jail. Business owner gives property to guy who bails out of jail. That's what happened here. Why in your right, I mean, nobody in their right mind is going to want to acquire a property like this. This property has hundreds of thousands of dollars minimal in cleanup that needs to be done here. My guess is at 1095 Creston Avenue, where Kyle lives, there's probably not hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're probably also wondering why Kyle was in jail. Well, Kyle was not in jail because the folks here in Vanderburgh County went down to Tennessee, served him a warrant, and said, we're going to throw you in jail for having a property like this. That's not why he was in jail. Kyle was in jail because cops say Kyle stole electricity. Now, Kyle stole electricity, or so the police say, by hooking up jumper cables to a telephone pole, running it to his house. Which may bring to light why Kyle, freshly out of jail, wanted a property like this, because there's plenty of loose, probably live wires right here on the sidewalk. Now, why is this allowed? Like I said, we've talked to a lot of neighbors, a lot of citizens that have problems with this property. I'm going to introduce you to one right now. Tell me how you found out about the property.
I'm a CASA volunteer, and I came through here a couple months ago to bringing some kids home. Drove past this building and actually went around again because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that this mess was left like this. There are numerous kids in this neighborhood. I've seen kids going in to get bricks. I've seen kids coming out of something like this. It looks like a mine shaft. It is what's left of a basement, and you can see, can you imagine children going down in there and then the roof collapsing?
Sure. That's a long way down there too.
It's unbelievable.
We saw a child here the other day who actually told us he had a friend that went all the way up there.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I mean, this is a neighborhood full of children. And when I was a kid, I would have loved to have explored something like this. It is not right. It is not right. There is going to be a child killed or horribly maimed in here. So I contacted you, and I'm counting on you to get something done.
And we are going to get something done because we're going to Graceland. Well, 5 hours of scenic highways later, and I've made it to the world's most famous vacant house. That would be the home of Elvis Presley. Now, my business here is not with the king of rock and roll. I'm looking for Kyle. Kyle, the king of stealing electricity. I'm going to find him somewhere here in Memphis. I found it. I am on the block of Kyle's house. This is where the road from that building on West Maryland Street ends, at this property right here. It may look like a vacant building, but you know what? Kyle has left the building, but Kyle's neighbors remain. And Kyle's neighbors are telling us a story about a gentleman who acquired a building from Mr. Marshall and knows he owns this property, but he has no money. There's nothing to gain from Kyle. So what's going to happen here? Well, first of all, let's take a look at where Kyle lives. I think it's very interesting that Kyle has no meter on his house here in Memphis, Tennessee. And also interesting, if you come back here, is that our good friend Kyle, if you look at the door back here, has a cord going through the bottom of the door. Neighbors tell us a story here of a situation that's all too familiar to us in Evansville, which is total blight, property not being taken care of. And who's Kyle's landlord? Well, that of course would be Scott Marshall. We all remember Scott, right? You know, with all the hurt Scott's in, I'm sure his living conditions are probably just about as bad. Scott's doing okay. Scott Marshall lives back there. He has real live chickens in his front yard. That's a real pond. And if you see back there, there's actually a couple chickens back there. I'd get arrested if I had chickens in my front yard. But this is a very rural, suburban, nice area. This house is worth in excess of $250,000. The house we were just at doesn't have electricity, but he rents that one out. Mr. Marshall was the owner of the property in Evansville when the fire happened. He gave the property to the gentleman charged with stealing electricity and who is living in his home. That gentleman, according to neighbors, has nothing. I encourage the city officials from Evansville to come to Bartlett, Tennessee, and take a look at maybe what Scott has. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today.
Turn right on Creston
I'm
Avenue.
going to go ahead and turn right on Creston Avenue. Oh, nicely done.
Arriving at 1095 Creston Avenue on the right.
Oh, that's it.
He's here.
He's here. Hey, Kyle.
Yeah, hello.
Kyle, my name is Jay. I came all the way from Indiana to see you.
Well, that's terrible because I'm busy right now.
So one
You might have to
question
come
for
back
you.
later.
Can you tell me anything about the property you own up there?
Man, I think I need to let y'all talk to my attorney on that.
Who's your attorney?
His name is Wagner.
Okay.
Why'd y'all come all the way from Indiana?
Because I'm really interested in this property. Would you sell it?
Man, I don't know, man. I was told just to be quiet.
Okay. Who told you that?
Well, it's my property, but
Okay.
I was still told to be quiet about it. If anybody come ask me a question, shut up.
Who told you that?
I'm telling you, I ain't saying it.
Wagner. How can I get a hold of Wagner?
What do you want?
How can I get a hold of your attorney?
Huh?
I don't want to get you in trouble, brother.
Man, I can get a hold. You can give me your name and everything, and
Okay.
and I'll get him to get with you. How did y'all find out where I lived?
Well, your name's
Well,
on the property
it's
card.
on the property, yeah.
That's the property card. Those are my notes, dude. I can't let you have them.
But
Yeah, just write your name and numbers and stuff down. I have somebody call and get with you. Then maybe we can talk, but right now I was told not to talk to him.
All right. Appreciate it.
Jay Young,
Yes, sir.
the cleaner.
Courier and Press in Evansville.
Take care, buddy.
All right, y'all hang out, and I'll talk to y'all in a couple days, okay?
All right, thanks,
Give me a
Kyle.
call. I was told to be quiet. So Kyle never called me back like he promised he would. I gave him my card. He said he'd call me back. Never happened. So I called him. Kyle notified me that this situation is none of my goddamn business. I told Kyle that it's actually a lot of my goddamn business, to which he promptly responded, you don't want to mess with me. And he hung up. I'm going to be honest about it. I want to mess with Kyle a lot. I've also spoken to the former owner, Mr. Scott Marshall. Scott claims that he doesn't know anything about Kyle ever being in jail, though Scott tells me that Kyle is a former employee of his. This is a really, really bad situation. I don't even know, we're not even sure that anyone really ever broke the law here. In fact, some have told us that really Kyle is just a human LLC for the previous owner who now possibly cannot be held liable. That leaves the city taxpayers holding the bag on this one. And this is going to be really, really expensive because I'm not going to stay out here for free and keep knocking this thing down.
This is terrible. It really and truly is terrible.
I mean, the guy that owned this business lives in a pretty nice facility. We were there.
He needs to be forced to live here for a while. See how he likes that. A couple of the kids that I'm a CASA volunteer for live in this general area. And, you know, they live in such high poverty. And it's not fair that a place like this is permitted to. It's not right.
I hear it.
For the neighbors and especially the children living here. Maybe we could all pass the hat around town and get enough money for a fence.